For Christian Vargas, today is the first chance for him to achieve racing immortality, to achieve back-to-back championships in the 1UP Superstar Series. Today is his first chance to make it happen, but before him and the other drivers in today's race lie 99 laps at Rockingham Speedway, one of the most treacherous tracks you'll find on the 1UP Superstar Series schedule, or really in any racing division. This 1 mile high-banked oval, it chews up tires for breakfast, and these guys are going to have their hands full for the entirety of today's race. Alongside me in the booth for today's race is Ryan Griffin once again, and well, I've pretty much said what needed to be said. Christian Vargas is on the verge of racing greatness. He just needs to have a good day, while Miles Mashburn needs to have a rotten day, and if that happens the way Vargas hopes, he'll be champion at the end of today.
If he is able to do it, this is probably one of the toughest tracks to be able to accomplish that feat. This track surface is like sandpaper, and it'll wear away and eat away at tires like there's no tomorrow. So if Vargas is able to do it today, he would definitely have earned it. I mean, this track is not easy to go around, but Vargas has some good experience here. Last year he finished runner-up here, which we'll get to the starting order in a minute, and we'll explain the situation there in a moment, but it can be done. Vargas knows what he has to do today to go out there and see if he can try to clinch it today. Obviously, he wants to try to clinch it today so he doesn't have to worry about next week, and then he can go out next week and just try to win the race as opposed to worrying about, points and all that. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely, this is going to be a lot of fun for us in the booth to see these two heavyweights go at it. As we now look at the starting lineup, as you mentioned, for today's 99-lap race, old friends from yesteryear start on the front row together. Lane Sanders gets his first pole of 2022. He lines up alongside Jeffrey Finguy, looking for his 10th career win here this afternoon. Christian Vargas, the man to beat this season, lines up third, and his main rival for the title, Miles Mashburn, starts 10th. So, going back to what we were talking about earlier about the point situation, Vargas today, if neither of these two get a top 2 finish, Vargas has to outscore Mashburn by 13 points or more. If he can do that today, the championship is his. But he would need the 72 to have a little bit of an issue because they're both starting in the top 10, although on opposite lanes from each other. And the inside gets a much better launch at the start than the outside. So how these early laps go could decide a lot about this race.
And especially with where they're starting now, to just give people at home the scenario here, Vargas, as the running order, as you've seen in the running order, if Vargas were to gain one position and it end that way, he locks it. That's as simple as it is at the moment. Again, that'll change throughout the day, and we'll see how Vargas is looking for 3 straight wins. And if he goes out there and does that, that would be a great way to put yourself in a position to lock your second straight championship.
And 99 laps from now, we will know for sure if Christian Vargas will be a 2-time champion or if that honor will have to wait another week. So with 42 cars lined up on the grid and everybody ready to get racing, this is the 1UP Superstar Series from Rockingham Speedway, and the green flag is mere moments away. So stay tuned, because this race could be the most important one of the season. Time will tell over the next 99 laps. Here we go then, ready to rock and roll at the Rock for 99 laps. Lane Sanders and Jeffrey Finguy, green flag in the air. We're underway at Rockingham Speedway, and it looks like Lane Sanders gets the better launch of the 2 front row starters. Going off into turn 1, he gets quite the lead, and hopefully Christian Vargas is going to follow Finguy through to claim that second spot he needs to take a championship.
Yeah, and for Vargas, it's just pretty much simple. He's just got to go out there and do what he's done so far these last 2 weeks. Obviously, they put themselves in position the last 2 weeks and taken advantage of it. So if you can do that again here today, it could very well lock him his second straight championship. But as we are here, lap 2, Lane has pulled away now by about 2 or 3 car lengths ahead of Vargas, who has moved into second.
Looks like we got one slowing off on the apron. That's Diego Yepes in the 77. He started in that low 20s. Looks like he had come to pit road to take the green flag with some sort of issue yet to be announced on that 77. So he rejoins a lap down now in last place, but a lot of time to make stuff happen. You can get timely caution, you can have the pit stops go your way. Not over for the 77 just yet. But here's Christian Vargas losing a few spots. First to Finguy, then to Polanski, now to Roberto Crown Jr. This 54 is going in the wrong direction in a hurry.
Right now, it looks like he's kind of hung up on the high side at the moment while most everybody else is running down low. So obviously, Vargas must have felt something that he didn't like, or there's something in the handling, at least here for the early part of this run, that he's not liking in that car, at least at the moment.
And right now, he's watching all the King's Motorsports cars, bar Nelson Reeves, passing him on that inside. They're all working together, the 18 to 81 and the 02, all in a line. But back at the front, Lane Sanders' lead over Jeffrey Finguy, it's getting smaller every lap. These two have a history. Remember Watkins Glen last year? I'm sure Lane Sanders remembers. Race car drivers have memories like elephants. They don't forget anything. So as Jeffrey Finguy closes up on the back of the 41, I know this incident was over a year ago, but like I said, race car drivers don't forget.
Yeah, and speaking as a race car driver, yeah, we have... If somebody does you wrong, it's always going to be in the back of your mind when you're around them on the racetrack of, hey, that guy did me wrong. I got to keep that in mind that, not that your mind is instantly going to go for payback, initially, but yeah, you're always going to be reminded of that and thinking of that. And sure enough, Lane may be leading this race. He knows the 92's behind him, but he also knows that, hey, in the back of his mind, this guy wronged me, You do tend to race those guys. You tend to race people differently if you've had a past history.
But right now, I don't think Finguy's worried about any move from Lane Sanders. He just wants to get around the 41 quickly. He knows he's got the car to do it. He's about 0.3 of a second off of the 41. I think he's going to time a move in the next few laps to try and get the lead, because Finguy needs something good to happen if he's going to have any hope of staying in the playoff conversation. He's pretty deep in the points as they run right now, and I would expect it would take a win to keep him in the hunt at this point in the season.
Right now we're on lap 9 of 99. We're 1/10. I think I did the math right. Actually, it might be 1/11. The way into this race, Lane leads Finguy. Polanski is now 3rd. Taskar is up to 4th. And I believe that's Ben McDonald there in fifth at the moment. But I think the big story right now is Christian Vargas has actually fallen out of the top 10.
Entirely, yeah. So Vargas' car not handling the way he wants it. So we'll have to keep an eye on that the rest of the week.
I want to preface this because we've seen this the last 2 weeks. Especially last week at Texas. We thought he was out to lunch. We thought, Vargas is in trouble. And look what happened. So I'm kind of holding my breath on that it's anything to be worried about with that 54, as we got a lead change.
Yes, Jeffrey Finguy did make a move around Lane Sanders, so end the 41's run at the lead at 9 laps. Finguy takes over on the 10th. But I think Lane Sanders has got to be planning a counter move on this 92 if he can stay with Jeffrey Finguy. I don't know if he can. I'll gladly be proven wrong, but we will see. We enter lap 12 of this race. So Vargas has fallen to 14th now on the racetrack. 5 seconds off the lead, but critically, you see Miles Mashburn down in 30th as they run right now.
As they run right now...
That would do it for Vargas. He can still clinch from there. He can still clinch it from there, even if he finishes 14th and Mashburn finishes outside the top 30. Which he now is. Yeah,
Vargas is having his issue, but Mashburn is also having an even bigger issue. So it's, you see, this is what we've seen, especially out of the last couple of weeks with Vargas. It's like we think he has an issue, and then all of a sudden they bounce back, and suddenly they're in a position they need to be in.
It's crazy how this all works in the long run, but. You see now, Sanders and Finguy have built a pretty nice lead over the King's Motorsports duo, Polanski and Taskar. They're about 1.3 seconds ahead, but they're actually the King's cars are actually starting to gain a little on these two. So we might have more cars battling for the lead if we're not careful here. But Finguy right now has got to be looking pretty good. He's on lap number 15. He's got a half-second lead over the 41, 1.6 over everyone else. He just needs to have a clean drive from here. However, we are going to have two rounds of green flag pit stops if this race goes green the entire way. So, With that being said, these tires are going to hit a cliff at some point. They're going to lose a lot of performance in a short amount of time, and when that happens, around lap 35 to 40, these guys are going to be diving for the pit lane as soon as humanly possible.
But it's basically at this point, you're just trying to manage your car, feel it out, because you know you're going to have tire fall, so you're trying to see how your car is going to feel when those tires eventually reach, as you said, when they reach that cliff, and then see how your car is reacting. Obviously, we've seen it here in the opening run, namely with our contenders for the championship that have run into issues here early where they've lost spots and then fallen down the grid here, at least early on. But again, some cars get better as a run goes, I've noticed too. And we mentioned the King's Motorsports cars that were trying to catch the leaders, but I think that's kind of fallen off as far as that gap goes. It looks like Finn Guy and Lane continue up there at the front, so no change at the front as we are looking with Vargas back here in around, I believe, 14th.
That's the 13th position. Vargas is running in. And a quick shout out to the car running directly in front of him, Daniel Voiles in the Team Dayspring 08. They have yet to get a top 10 with Voiles this season. He's running just outside the top 10 now in 12th spot. This would be his best finish of the season if he can hang on to that. That's the guy who owns that car, Devin Fair, who drives the 51. As we make our way back to the front of the field, the gap between Finn Guy and Sanders has grown to about 3/4 of a second.
And I like watching this, and I'm not saying that due to the fact that my team owner is the one that's actually leading the race. My team owner in the Truck Series, who is actually leading the race right now. But yeah, Finn Guy leading Lane here, and Finn Guy really is kind of not had that great of playoffs, has he? You really haven't heard much from him this playoff. So this is definitely, at least here early on, a run that I think he needs just to salvage a run in the playoffs. Say, hey, at least I had one good race in the playoff, versus being completely out of the woods. And another guy that needs a good run, even though he's pretty much effectively out of the championship hunt, is this 18 car, Polanski, and he's having a good little run here early, although his teammate is going to go by him here in the 02 and take over the third position.
But he is going to slot in right ahead of the 12 of McDonald. So, yeah, you're right, though. Polanski, he's dead last among the playoff contenders, which is a surprise considering this is the guy who finished runner-up in points to Christian Vargas last year. So, Polanski having a bit of a runners-up jinx in the playoffs. But he's doing a good job, like you said here. He's running in 4th now, and 4th on the fastest lap chart. So at this point, Polanski having a solid run, it might get him ahead of Daniel Bouchard up to 14th in the points, but that's yet to be seen. As you see, the gap now between Finn Guy and the rest of the field is actually grown. It's now 1.5 seconds between Finn Guy and Sanders, and 2.6 ahead of everyone else.
Finn Guy is definitely, obviously he qualified P2, so he obviously has a good car. It's just a matter of, I have to see as the run goes, and evidently as the run goes at 92, it's just get faster and faster and just able to maintain. And a lot of the times here with Rockingham, it's not necessarily that you're faster over the run, it's just you're more consistent over the run than somebody like, we'll compare him to the 41. The 41 was the fastest car in qualifying. Looked to be good here early in the first 9 laps, but Finn Guy ran him down and got around him, and now I believe Lane is going to fall maybe into the clutches of Tascar in the 02 here before too long. His car just might not be as consistent as Finn Guy's is, and Finn Guy's might be just that, because his is more consistent, he's not seeing the fall off, and he's not losing as much time as, say, the 41 is.
So now we're on the quarter distance mark here at Rockingham. And Jeffrey Finn Guy's lead is 1.8 seconds. He's doing a good job of keeping everybody at considerable distance behind this 92. So, Lane is he's holding his own back there, but I think you're right. I think the two Kings cars are going to catch him before long. And depending on how quickly that happens, we could see these guys try and chase down the 92. But I think it'd be more of a good strategy for them to just hold position 2nd and 3rd, get to the window for the first pit stop, and undercut the 92. And that's probably going to be the best way to go about this, because the sooner you can get those fresh tires on, the much better it'll be for you.
And I was literally just going to say that after you finished saying that one of the ways that the O2 and especially the O2, I think the O2 is the quicker of the two cars at the moment, could catch the 92 is by hitting a lap or so earlier before the 92 does and get those fresh tires on as early as you can. Because really here, you want to try to get the fresh tires on as soon as the window opens. You don't want to be the last guy out there on old tires and trying to figure, oh, I'll try to stretch the run. No, you want to try to get those fresh tires as soon as you can. As we see Tascar now look to the inside of Lane, and he will go by Sanders, I believe, here in turn 1. I think Lane will be able to maybe hold on just for a brief second here over the 18, but the 18 looks like it's probably going to go around him down here in 3 and 4.
Yeah, the only way you could justify staying out on old tires and doing all that, extending your stint, is to hope for a caution flag and to trap everybody that's pitted a lap down. That is your only justification for doing that, because we've seen accidents happen on during green flag pit stops before, and especially at a small place like Rockingham, it's very possible. So if you want to try that, and you're, say, where Ramian Fisher or Devin Fair are, 9th or 10th, or even further back, honestly, and you have nothing to lose, you might as well try something different. But if you're up front like these guys are, no chance you're risking that.
Yeah, I was just going to add, you kind of hit my point before I was going to make it, but yeah, it's usually when you see that, it's a lash. When you see somebody stay out on old tires, they're trying to do the Hail Mary, the last shot, hey, we're not running great, we're not running where we should be, and let's try something different than all the leaders do. Sometimes it works out, as you said, sometimes we see incidents during green flag pit stops that'll bring out a yellow and it works out. But most of the time, majority of the time, your best bet is to just pit as soon as the window opens and try to maybe leapfrog 1 or 2 people to pit road and get those fresh tires as soon as you can.
So Cale Tescar Jr. is running a lonely second right now. He's 1.3 seconds ahead of his teammate Polanski, but he's now, as they cross the line to start lap 32, he's 2.9 seconds off of Jeffrey Finguy. So at this point, I think Finguy's got them covered. But Tescar and Polanski, I think, are the guys, if they were to pull the trigger and get to pit road early, they might be in a good position to leapfrog the 92. But if Finguy pits even on the same lap as them, there's no chance that strategy will work, because he's got a massive lead on the racetrack, and it's only getting bigger as time goes on. Look, it just went up another 10.
I hate to say this, because it is my team owner of the Truck Series that is leading this race at this moment. But as we've seen this year, we've seen guys be dominant in races. Yet we've seen something happen that takes them out of it. So, yes, Finguy clearly at this point in the race has the car to beat. He has over what will probably be, he's actually lost a tenth there, but still about a 2.8 second lead here. Seems like he's on cruise control. But in the back of your mind, I know Finguy, in the back of his mind, he's thinking, okay, what do we got to do to actually put the exclamation point to this, to actually close this out versus, lead all these laps and say finish 4th or 5th, You're trying you don't want to take yourself out of it. You don't want to do something that takes you out of it. And as we see, he actually did gain a 10th back there, so.
Yeah, and we're at the point in the run now where I think this lap is where the cliff hits, and these tires are going to fall off insanely quickly. We're already seeing lap times about 4 seconds a lap slower than when they started this race. Look how early Finguy brakes for the corner here. It's really a night and day difference between the early stages of a run and the very latter stages of a run like we're seeing right now. It's only a matter of time, I feel, before these guys start to think about maybe pitting on the just to try and gain an advantage. We're looking back now. Oh, we got a taker, and
there you go. There's your first taker. Your first, I guess you could say, who's going to blink first.
And critically, Christian Vargas is one of them. Vargas trying to take the initiative and pit early to try and gain some lost ground. He was stuck in about 14th, 15th the entire stint. So I think this is a great strategy for Polanski to try and take, or for Vargas to try and take. As you see, Lane Sanders, he's one of the next few to come to pit road. Dylan Young in the 29.
Like I say, interestingly enough, Finn Guy and Taskar, the top two cars at the moment,
They're
have stayed out here. They've actually extended it.
Yeah, I think they're just confident in the lead they've built, but I don't know about this. Okay, I think now Finn Guy is now going to pit. He's pitting this time, so put to rest any worries for the 92. But Teskar is going to stay out an extra lap, pick himself up a bonus point. You never know when that'll come in handy for a last-minute points swap of positions. But it looks like he's going to be the only one. I think Duke Anzac's also staying out with him. And Mark Davey maybe, but that might be it. So, this is going to be tight between these guys. Oh man, it's a good thing Teskar braked right there, otherwise that could have been calamity. But here comes the O2 into the pit lane now.
So, and the first cycle of stops, I think you said the 83 may have stayed out with the O2.
There he is.
Well, the 83 is actually
he's staying out another lap. So yeah, Anzac staying out an additional lap to pick up a point for himself. Oh man, look, it's a big
speed difference.
That's Glenn Mixon in the 34 rocketing past the 83. And look, Felix Anderson, he's still getting up to speed and he's able to clear the 83. Anzac needs to pit in a big hurry, and it looks like he's going to do that now.
He's coming this time, but if anybody out there wanted to know, the difference in how fresh tires is versus old tires here, that was a good visual example right there of how much a difference fresh tires makes here.
So we're looking for our new race leader, and I believe, there's Polanski. He's running. He actually lost a few spots, maybe a slow stop. There's Vargas.
I was gonna say it appears it might be Mark Davey might be the leader.
No, he was one of the guys who stayed out with Anzac, so he's pitted.
Okay, so then would it be fair?
It would be Teskar actually. So Teskar, actually no,
it would be the 12 car.
Yeah, Ben McDonald would be your race leader by about 2 seconds over Jeffrey Finguy. So yeah, Teskar still needed the pit, and you can see
there's that we've talked about it before. Getting in as soon as the window was open. I believe the 12 car may have been one of the first ones to pit.
Oh, and he absolutely was one of the first as well. So
you can see how much time it gained him.
A great call by this 12 team to get him out in the lead. He's ahead by 2.1 seconds over Jeffrey Finguy in second. And 4.1 back to Lane Sanders and Dylan Young, who are having a rightal tussle for the third spot. And notice Christian Vargas. He's, as you see, Sanders and Young battling for third. It's not going to be much of a battle much longer. But here is Christian Vargas. He pitted on the first lap of availability, and he jumped at least 7 spots by doing so. A very good strategy for this 54 team. He's up in the top 10 now, but I think Miles Mashburn did the same thing Vargas did, and now Mashburn is just outside the top 10 now. So, as things stand right now, Vargas would not be champion today.
Yeah, and Mashburn had, as we had stated earlier, had really fallen off even further than what Vargas did. So, no surprise that they took that early strategy as well, and obviously so far it's paid off for both of them, as both of them have gained back track time.
And you saw Bobo Jones in our shot a moment ago. He had an extended issue on pit road, and they kept him there for a while. He's back on track, but as you can see on our ticker, our scoring pylon, whatever you want to call it, he is now in last 5 laps down. But back at the front, it is Ben McDonald continuing to lead this race. He already has 2 wins this season. He's looking for a third. That'd be an impressive feat for a driver who only had 1 win prior to this season. But as you can see, Finguy's eating out whole chunks from McDonald's lead. It's already down to 1.5.
See, now this is where...
I hate to interrupt, but we got an issue with McDonald's teammate, Jake McMillan. Maybe a loose wheel on this 21. It'd have to be for him to pit this soon after a green flag stop cycle. But he's getting 4 fresh ones now, and he will fall multiple laps down as a result of this. Sorry to interrupt your thought.
Yeah, what I was going to get to is, yes, fresh tires, if you get the fresh tires as early as you get the track position, but now we're starting to see, as that interval continues to shrink, the strength of the car that the 92 has had and has shown so far today. Now that's becoming the advantage as he closes back to the 12 car. It's kind of canceling out the tire advantage that the 12 had there during that stint when the 92 stayed out. The 12 pitted early for those tires. So Now Finn guy's reeling him back in. The lead should be probably, what, maybe half a second this time? No, another tenth, but...
Yeah, he had
yeah,
a lap car to deal with. That's why it was a slower gain on that
he
lap.
was definitely gaining on McDonald, and probably will be in the lead here before too long.
Yeah, McDonald, it was a great idea regardless, because McDonald was running like 6th or 7th when he came into the pit lane, and now he's the race leader, so a very good strategy call. But this just goes to show you the strength of that 92 car, of Jeffrey Finguy. He is doing a phenomenal job. And don't forget who's in 3rd right now. That's his teammate next year and for this race, Dylan Young, making his final superstar race of the season right here. His 10th start of the year. He'll be full-time next year, of course. But Dylan Young is very good on abrasive racetracks. He won the national race at Texas World Speedway last week, so he knows how to get around these old racetracks, and he's showing it in 3rd place.
Yeah, it's here comes Finguy. So yeah, 2 cars similar in nature. Yeah, obviously team cars, so probably set up pretty similar. Maybe played the same strategy as well, and evidently it's worked out for him so far, running 2nd and 3rd at the moment. Although Finguy is going to be looking for the lead here probably within the next corner or two, because I mean that car has been on rails today. Obviously McDonald got out into the lead due to the strategy, which when we get to this second set of stops, we're going to have to watch that strategy again. Obviously, we saw what it did the first cycle here, so we'll have to see what happens in the second cycle and see if somebody can do what McDonald did here and get ahead of the 92 and see if Finguy again can run them down.
And there is no gap between these two. They are nose to tail at the moment. And notice Dylan Young's actually chopping a good chunk out of the lead each lap. So as these two continue to squabble, that allows the 29 to gain more and more time. And wouldn't it be something for Dylan Young to get a win in his part-time season before he jumps up to full-time next year? But that's the last thing on Jeffrey Finguy's mind, because he's going for the lead right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, not just that for the 29, but to beat his owner.
Exactly.
Would be something of note, too.
Exactly.
So, but Finguy is going to take the lead here from McDonald. We'll see if Young can run down the 12 car as well and make it a 1-2 for that race team.
It would be a first for Finguy Saitomi Motorsports in any series to have a 1-2 finish for the organization, and wouldn't it be something to come in the Superstar Series where they don't even have a second full-time car yet? But that's still a long way from being decided. We're just past halfway in this race. There is Lane Sanders running 5th. Cale Tescar Jr. slipped to 6th. And now Vargas, you see in the 54, he's starting to lose a little bit. He lost a spot to Tescar, he lost a spot to Hutchinson, and he might lose another one in the 5th one here. This is probably not a long-run car.
You see, I was just going to say, we saw this in the first, and I just don't think this 54 is as good on the long run. It seems like they start off all right, then throughout the run it kind of fades a little bit, but then he gets consistent. Remember, he was running roughly about 14th place, so he wasn't losing or gaining any spots, so he was consistent once he leveled out. But that could be an issue, especially, him and Mashburn again fighting each other for that championship. Of course, the possibility that Vargas could lock it up today.
That possibility is getting slim, though, because Mashburn is still hanging on to a spot just outside the top 10. He's right behind Roberto Crown Jr. for that 10th spot. He's running 11th. So, yeah, there's Mashburn right there, running right behind Roberto Crown Jr. So, as they run right now, Vargas would gain 3 points on Mashburn, but that's not enough to lock up the title.
However, crucially though, and this is the more key thing I think for Mashburn's case, he's not gained anything on Vargas. So yeah, Vargas would gain 3 points, so you think, oh well, that's not much. Well, it's still a gain for Vargas. Mashburn, if he wants to really put himself back in a position to take it to Vargas going to the last race, he has got to get ahead of that 54 one way or the other. And right now, Vargas just... Honestly, I think even, as I said during the pre-race, he would love to clinch it today. He would love to go to the last race and not worry about it. But even right now, he would take what he's given in this situation right now. He's got a 3-point gain. He's running consistent right now in the top 10. His rival for the title is outside the top 10 and isn't gaining anything on him, crucially. So this is the best scenario you could ask for outside of actually clinching the championship today.
And meanwhile, while we were talking about the championship fight, look at this battle for the 4th position between Ramian Fisher, Lane Sanders, and Cale Tescar Jr. Oh, and Bobo Jones getting in on this action as well. Even though he's 5 laps down, he's not afraid to put his elbows out. He's gotten around Sanders, and now Cale Tescar Jr. will do the same to move Lane Sanders out of the top 5 for the first time all afternoon.
And honestly, I think this 41 is almost in the same boat that the 54 is in. They don't seem to be as strong as the run goes. They kind of level out. As I said, they kind of level out at the end of the run. And they're okay to start off with, but they're not good in the middle part, which is really where you want to be good. And, I mean, man, look at this 29 now going after the 12 car trying to take second.
If this is an indicator of how good Dylan Young is going to be next year, look out for the rest of this field. He is going to be a real stout contender for Rookie of the Year at the very least, and maybe even a dark horse for the playoffs as well. And here he comes around Ben McDonald to make it a Fingai Saitomi Motorsports 1-2 on the road here at Rockingham.
Also helps for Young that he is driving a car that is basically the team car to what has been the dominant car so far today, that 92. So, really good situation for that whole race team right now to be running 1-2 here at the moment.
Absolutely it is. So, Dylan Young, while he was getting around the 12, he lost about half a second in his pursuit of the lead. But honestly, he's not worried about that right now. He's got to be thinking, this is his 10th career start in the Superstar Series, all of which have come this year. And this would be a career best for him if he can hang on to this. And that would be perfectly fine. As long as they can secure the 1-2, this would be a perfect day for Fingai Saitomi Motorsports. If they can get this 1-2, they'll be set. However, we still have about 35 laps to go, and we have one more set of pit stops to do, which, by the way, the window is open. If you want to pit now, you can make it the rest of the way.
Well, I have to keep an eye out here. Again, we saw what the 12 team did. They pitted the 12 earlier than the leader. They were earlier than the 9-2 and was able to have the lead at least for a brief bit before the Finn guy was able to run him back down. Well, we'll see if anybody tries that here, and then see again if Finn guy elects to pit later, or a couple laps later, if he can run him back down like he did in the first stint.
You see back there, Cale Tescar Jr. has gotten around Ben McDonald for the 3rd position, so moved the 02 up into the podium places once again. But I think you're right. These guys have got to be thinking about the final pit stop already. This is where the tires are going to hit their cliff once again. And at this point in time, do not risk anything. Bring it in as soon as you think you can make it to the end, and go for broke from there. Because it is well worth your time to do so. And as you can see, Jeffrey Fingai, he's caught some heavy lap traffic. So this could be an opportunity for some of these guys. If I were Fingai, I'd pull him in as soon as he caught up to this lap traffic. But maybe they have other plans for him. We'll see.
Again, as we've already stated and we've seen, Fingai was able to run down the team that had decided to pit earlier than them. So we know they got the car underneath them to run them back down. I guess the question is just going to come down to whatever difference there is.
It looks like we've already had some takers, and Lane Sanders was among them. And Cale Tescar Jr. as well. And here comes Dylan Young into the pits now. The final round of pit stops have begun. Ben McDonald now comes into the pits. Ramian Fisher. Christian Vargas, critically. He comes into the pits at the 2nd time of asking. But Jeffrey Fingai once again stays out a little longer. This could be his strategy. I'm not sure if it's going to work this time around, because this time they know his playbook.
You see, I would be of the same mindset, the kind of mindset.
See, look, he's staying out another lap now.
But then again, we saw this in the first stint, and he was able to run down the 12 car. So we'll have to see how this cycles around. We'll see where he actually comes out once he does decide to pit.
Yeah, but he's staying out a lot longer this time than he did the first time around. And look, he's not even going to try and pit on this lap. He's super extending. This could cost him the race right here if he keeps this up much longer.
I don't know whether as strong as what we've seen out of that car if it's going to be that big a detriment. Now, granted, yes, you're going to lose time to these guys that are taking tires, but we'll have to see. We'll see once it all settles
that's
around.
close.
Ooh,
between Carter, Polanski, and Bobo Jones, and Finguy, he's still staying out there. This is a suicide mission, I think. Jeffrey Finguy is taking this race. He's out front right now, but he's going to lose a lot of time by the time he finally comes into the pits.
You know, I'm sitting here trying to rack my brain too, but the only thing I can think of is they think they have a strong enough car that they can stretch it as far so they're on the freshest tires at the end.
Okay, this time he's going to come.
I mean, that's honestly the only thing I can see is why they're doing this, is that they know they have a strong car, and they want the freshest tires for the freshest tires they can have for that last little bit. But the downside of that is you're going to lose all this track time.
And he's going to fall out of the top 10 doing that.
But we'll see. I mean, we did see him run down the 12. Granted, there was only one car between himself, and that was only the 12 that he had to run down. There may be more that he has to make up.
And here's your leader now, Duke Anzac, who got passed by about 10 cars on that last lap. He's extending even further. Devin Fair, he's also extending. He's coming into the pits now. Duke Anzac's got to be the best guy at saving his tires we've ever seen, because he's able to extend so long. He did this on the first stint. He's doing it again now, and he's got to come in at some point. And McMillan, of course, he's on an alternate strategy entirely. He's staying out a little longer. But for Anzac, and J.D. Martin, too, for good measure, there's got to be a method to their madness we're not seeing.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait here and see what happens. Again, now we saw what the 92 could. Obviously, I don't think it's going to work as well for the 83 as I don't think it worked very well in the initial stint, but we'll see what happens with this 92. I'm curious to see with this 92 if it was a matter of they just think they have a good enough car that can run back up there, but I don't know. That's a lot more track position you're losing this time around than the first time you did it. So,
and it looks like this time the leader of the race is going to be Cale Teskar Jr. by quite some margin over Dylan Young. So I think Jeffrey Finguy just lost out in a big way. He's going to be if he's going to be in the top 10 at all, he's going to be just inside of it, because now Teskar is going to take the lead from the 83 once that cycles out. And he's going to have probably a 3.4 second lead over Dylan Young. This might be Tescar's race to lose at this point.
Yeah, we're still waiting for it to cycle around here, although we are pretty much confirming that the 02 will be the leader.
Yes, he is, because Anzac just pitted. So Teskar takes the lead. Young, 3.6 off the lead like I thought. But Ben McDonald's still back there, 4 seconds off the lead. So yeah, there's Anzac exiting the pits now. This is going to be tough, because we still don't see Finguy in the top 10. And Duke Anzac's already cycled out. This could be a problem for that 92 bunch. But there's still 22 laps to go. You know, there's still something that could happen. But as you see, and Christian Vargas, he did the same strategy.
Critically, Vargas is still in the top 10. You know, we talked about him having a good, steady run in here, and most notably, whether or not he clinched it today, he had to finish ahead of Mashburn to put himself in a good position either way. And so far, pretty much this whole day, he's done that.
Absolutely.
Mashburn has not once been ahead of him today, and honestly, that's all you could ask for if you're Vargas. That's exactly what you want. You want to keep your main rival in your rearview mirror and keep him there. And so far, he's done that today.
Yeah, so Vargas runs 7th, Mashburn 13th. That's still not enough to clinch it here. As you see Jake McMillan, he does finally pit. There he is. So he will be the last one to make his final pit stop. But back at the front now, Teskar, he's got a 3.1 second lead now. It's gone down quite a bit. So with 20 laps to go, this might not be over yet. If the 29 and the 12 can gain a lot of ground on him in a very short amount of time.
We saw this before with the 92 and the 12. The 29, I think, like his teammate and owner, was good the later the run went. Now, granted, it looks like Teskar has gained about 2/10 back on the lead, so I may be speaking too soon in saying this, but I think the 29 is a little bit better long-run car. So we'll see at the end of this stint if he's able to make any more out of it. It doesn't look like he's gaining. It looks like Tascar is actually gaining time. So this might be the O2's race to take to the house here.
There's still 19 more laps to settle this at Rockingham, but I think you're right. If they want to take this race away from Cale Tescar Jr., they're going to have to earn it. Because coming across the line now, let's see, yeah, he keeps gaining about a 10 for 2 per lap on these guys, and at this point in time, that's plenty enough to take this win. He needs to navigate the lap traffic, but at the same time, all the cars that are chasing him, they're going to have to deal with the same lap cars. So at this point, I don't know, it looks pretty good, and as you might have noticed on our scoring pylon, Jeffrey Finguy has now climbed back into the top 10, running 9 for 12 seconds off the lead.
Now again, running 9th, you may think, oh, that's manageable, he can do that. He's 12.2 seconds off the lead. That's the big issue right now, although he is gaining time. He gained another 0.2 there, but he's, again, still 12.2 seconds off the lead. Again, I can understand going a lap further than people go because you think you got that good enough car, but to go as long as they went that second stint.
Oh, and we got a problem, and it involves one of our top 10, and it is Justin Hutchinson. Oh, and Lane Sanders out of the race with a hefty whack to that 41 car. A devastating result for a team and driver that was on such a strong run of momentum as of late. They were 3 top 10s in a row for that team dating back to a few weeks, but it's not going to be 4 in a row, and that is going to be Lane Sanders' race over. We're going to get a replay, of course, of what happened to this, but that is just a heartbreak for that 41 team, who started on the pole, did everything right, just not meant to be today.
And that is one crushed soda can right there, and shockingly enough, surprisingly, obviously we'll get a replay of this, but shockingly enough, we did not see a caution come out for that. So whatever happened, I'd be curious to see what happened, but interestingly enough, the caution was not thrown for that. And crucially enough, look who's in the top 5.
Exactly. Christian Vargas is now in a prime position. He's still not going to be able to lock up the championship just yet, because Mashburn's still running in 11. But this is a very good position to be in. And Hutchinson looks like he doesn't even have any damage. These might be 2 completely separate incidents. So it looks like McMillan was on pressure tires. He hooks the 73 of Bouchard. He gets into Anderson. They get into the wall. And, oh, I think Lane Sanders just wrong place at the wrong time. And that's just devastating for that team who didn't really deserve that. And then Hutchinson, almost immediately after, completely blows the engine on that 10 car. So I was right. These are completely separate incidents, but they happen within about 2 seconds of each other.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate for Sanders because he really he was at least the top 10 car. I don't know if he was. Obviously, the car was not as good later as the run went, but he was obviously a top 10 car. He was running decent enough, and unfortunately, he was wrong place at wrong time when that incident happened there on the front straightaway.
So Sanders and Hutchinson become our first 2 retirements of this race. We now have 10 laps to go from Rockingham, and notice the gap's down to 2 seconds.
Crucially enough, Young has closed the gap to 2 seconds, so
they're on the same straightaway now, as a matter of fact.
I'm telling you, I believe that the 29 was a better long-run car, and also, crucially enough, his teammate is up to P5, and he's still under 8 seconds to go, but still.
And remember,
about
5 laps ago, it was 12 seconds off. So he gained about 4 seconds in 5 laps. That's mighty impressive. But I don't think it's going to be enough to challenge for the win.
It's too late for. But his teammate may still be able to get to this O2. I mean,
and don't count out McDonald either. McDonald's about half a second behind Young. Those two, if they work together to clear the lap traffic, they could close the gap onto Tescar, and we could have a real race by the end of this.
It's down to 1.3 seconds. He gained another 0.3 that time, but it's 8 laps to go, now 7.5 to go. And obviously we can see them both on the same straightaway, so
this is going to be a very close race at the end. I'll say that much. A very close race. But Cale Tescar Jr. has led, and he's looking for his 2nd career win. His first, of course, came all the way back in Monza, race 4.
I wouldn't give it to him just yet. Young knocked it down another 0.3, and once you get down under that 1 second range, look out.
And remember, these are stock cars. They don't have a magic trick to gain 10 miles an hour just by pushing a button. These things are just mechanical, script, and raw horsepower. But despite that, these guys are still gaining a lot of time. Young gained a 10th. McDonald actually gained a lot more than that. So these two, the 29 and the 12, Dylan Young could get his first career win in only his 10th career start before he even makes it to full time in this series.
Right now they have a lap car between the two of them. The lap car, I believe, is that Bobo Johnson? No,
that's Molina, his teammate.
Molina, that's right, Molina. I'm sorry, I got them confused with paint schemes.
They are identical, yes. But Molina now pushes Young up to the top of the racetrack.
I was going to say, that's the one thing that's going to ruin the 29 and the 12 is to have this lap car kind of in the way in the racing line. And Taskar, crucially enough, pulled the lead a little bit.
So now we're coming to 4 laps to go. McDonald trying to work his way around Dylan Young. Could we see something materialize in the final 4 laps, or is this Cale Taskar Jr.'s race? We'll see what happens if they cross the line. They lost another 10th on that occasion. But critically, McDonald has gotten around Dylan Young. So we've got a new man pressuring Cale Taskar Jr. at the end. But we're coming to 3 laps to go. Time's running out.
Now, what could be a difference maker, too, now we mentioned the 7 car and how he was racing those two. If he gets up to here to Taskar in these next, 3 laps, he could play the same hindrance that he was playing to the 12 and the 29.
And also, if you look back there, you have Daniel Bouchard, who took tires on a pit stop to repair damage from that Sanders crash. So he's on fresh tires, and he might play a factor in this, as might Brandon Beal, who's now trapped the 0-2 behind him for the last 20 laps or so as we now take 2 to go.
And now here comes those 2 cars, crucially on the fresher tires, those 2 lap cars. And if they get into Taskar's way here, McDonald has closed it. I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Taskar might be okay, but it's going to be close here as they come to the white flag.
Coming to the white flag indeed for Cale Taskar Jr. He's just got 1 more mile to hold on, but he gets pushed up to the top by Daniel Bouchard. This could be what makes or breaks it for Cale Taskar Jr. 1 lap to go from Rockingham. And Taskar's still stuck on the top of the racetrack because Molina now gets underneath him. McDonald is right there. He's going to need to send it really deep in the turn 3 to make this work. Down the back straightaway for the final time. Here's got to be the move right here. McDonald makes the move. Going into turn 3. A big move. This could be an upset right here. On the final corner of the final lap, Ben McDonald comes from behind to post a big upset to win at Rockingham. His 4th career win, 3rd of the season. How about that for the final few at Rockingham? But you gotta feel for Cale Taskar Jr., who did everything right today, just came up 0.3 of a second and about 100 feet too short. He'll come home 2nd today. Dylan Young gets a career best result as well in 3rd. Jeffrey Finguy made it all the way back up to 4th, but what could have been for that 92 and that entire FPM team. Ramian Fisher runs out the top 5, but here's Christian Vargas. He finished 6th today, but with Miles Mashburn finishing just where he needed to, he's not going to be champion today. We're going to settle it at Homestead next week between these 2 and these 2 only. Because everybody else knocked out of contention, it is going to be 1v1 for the championship at Miami next week.
And what a finish. I mean, those lap cars, those cars on fresher tires, we made mention of them when we saw them racing McDonald and Young, that they were going to play a role. And unfortunately for Cale Taskar Jr., they pretty much ruined his chances of winning this, but gave Ben McDonald a chance, and he took advantage of it with a last lap move in 3 and 4 to take the win. I believe you said it was his 3rd of the year, so...
Yep.
You can't think of anything better than winning one on the last lap in turn 3 and 4, right? So
absolutely, this one might be the sweetest of McDonald's career. He'll savor this one for a long time. So, from Ryan Griffin and from myself as well, we say goodbye from Rockingham. We'll see you again for one final time next week at Homestead Miami Speedway to wrap up the season. It's come down to this: Christian Vargas versus Miles Mashburn for the 1UP Superstar Series Championship in 2022. Who's going to take it all? Well, you'll have to join us then to find out. We're saying so long from Rockingham, but please do join us from Miami, because boy, that's going to be one for the history books no matter who comes out on top.